ancient streets of Jerusalem, there was a name that was whispered with trembling fear by every follower of the way, a name that signaled the destruction of families and the shattering of peace for the early church: Saul of Tarsus.
Blasphemes. He defies the laws of Moses.
He was not merely a passive observer of the new faith, but an active instrument of its suppression, walking with the heavy, purposeful stride of a man who believed with every fiber of his being that he was doing the righteous work of God. With the supreme authority of the high priest clutched in his hand like a weapon, Saul stormed into the humble homes of believers, his eyes scanning every shadow for those who dared to whisper the name of the Nazarene. He dragged them out into the unforgiving light of day, ignoring the pleas of weeping mothers and the terrified cries of children, casting men and women alike into the dark, cold depths of prison cells without a shred of mercy. To understand the depth of his fury, one must look back to the rocky ground where Stephen, the first martyr, breathed his last, while Saul stood by as the coat check for the executioners, his face hardened in silent approval of the violence. But the death of Stephen did not satisfy the fire raging within his soul. Rather, it acted as oil upon a flame, twisting his religious zeal into a dark obsession with wiping out the Christians and erasing their movement from history. Every single day was a hunt, a relentless pursuit where he scoured the narrow alleyways and hidden upper rooms of Jerusalem, determined to silence the testimony of the resurrection with the iron fist of the law and the weight of tradition. Yet, as the prisons in Jerusalem filled, Saul realized that the city was not enough to contain his ambition, for the rumors of the way had spread like wind, carrying the gospel to distant cities that were beyond his immediate reach. He marched into the courts of the religious leaders and demanded letters of extradition, his voice echoing off the stone walls as he declared, "Give me authority to go to Damascus, that I may bring them back bound in chains." So it was that Saul set out on the long, dusty road to Damascus, a journey of many days, accompanied by armed guards who shared his mission, but perhaps not the terrifying intensity that burned behind his dark, focused eyes. He walked with the confidence of a predator, his mind rehearsing the arrests he would make, completely unaware that the hunter was about to become the hunted, and that the grace of heaven was tracking his every step. The sun beat down on the arid landscape, the heat shimmering off the white rocks of the Roman road, as the city of Damascus finally appeared on the horizon, a jewel of civilization amidst the harsh wilderness. It was around midday, when the sun was at its absolute zenith and the shadows had fled beneath the stones, that the ordinary rhythm of the journey was shattered by an event that defied all natural explanation. Suddenly, a light from heaven, far brighter and more intense than the noonday sun, flashed around Saul, encompassing him in a brilliance that was not just physical illumination, but a weight of divine glory. The sheer force of this celestial radiance knocked Saul from his feet, driving him into the dust of the road, his body overwhelmed by a power that stripped away his strength, his pride, and his authority in a single instant.
I must reach the city before sundown.
Lying prostrate on the ground, his face pressed against the earth, He heard a voice that seemed to resonate not just in his ears, but in the very core of his
What do you
being,
want from me?
asking a question that pierced his soul. "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" Confused, trembling, and stripped of all his previous certainty, Saul dared to lift his head toward the overwhelming light and stammered out the only question that mattered in that moment. "Who are you, Lord?" The answer came with the weight of eternity, shattering Saul's worldview into 1,000 pieces. "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting. But get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do." The men traveling with Saul stood frozen in speechless amazement, for they heard the sound of a voice thundering like many waters. But when they looked around, they saw no one, only the blinding aftermath of the encounter.
Saul, why do you...
Saul struggled to his feet, his limbs shaking from the shock. But when he opened his eyes to look at the world he had once commanded, he found nothing but an impenetrable curtain of darkness. He was blind. The man who had left Jerusalem leading a company of enforcers was now reduced to a helpless state, forced to reach out his hand and be led like a small child by his companions, stumbling toward the gates of Damascus. For 3 agonizing days, the mighty Saul sat in a house in Damascus, refusing all food and drink, enveloped in a total darkness that was both physical and spiritual, forcing him to look inward at the wreckage of his life. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, in a quiet home far removed from the political machinations of the Pharisees, a devoted follower of Jesus named Ananias was kneeling in prayer, seeking the face of God. The Lord spoke to him in a vision, calling his name with a gentleness that contrasted the thunder on the road, "Ananias." And the faithful servant replied
Peace
instantly,
be upon this house.
"Yes, Lord," his heart open to the divine command.
Peace.
"Get up and go to the street called Straight," the Lord instructed, "and ask at the house of Judas for a man from Tarsus named Saul, for he is praying, and he has seen a vision of a man named Ananias coming to help him." Ananias froze, his blood running cold at the mention of that name, for the reputation of Saul had traveled faster than his caravan, and the stories of his brutality were whispered in every Christian gathering. "Lord," Ananias stammered, his voice betraying his very human fear, "I have heard many reports about this man and all the harm he has done to your holy people in Jerusalem, and he has come here with authority to arrest
I fear
us."
for your safety. This path you have...
But the Lord's answer cut through his hesitation with a sovereign decree that would shape the future of the world. "Go. This man is my chosen instrument to proclaim my name to the Gentiles and their kings and to the people of Israel." The Lord continued, revealing the heavy cost of this calling. "I will show him how much he must suffer for my name," marking the transition of Saul from the inflictor of suffering to one who would endure it for the sake of
5 denarii for the linen. 5 denarii
Obedient
for the
despite
linen.
his trembling
give you 3.
hands and racing heart, Ananias
look at these
rose from his
spices.
prayer,
Fresh
smoothed
bread.
his
Get your bread
robes,
here.
and walked out into the
Olives and
streets
oil,
of
the
Damascus,
best in the city.
heading toward the very lion's den he had feared. If you're finding this story of transformation inspiring, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel, as creating these animations is a labor of love, and your support helps us continue sharing these messages. The heavy wooden door of the house on Straight Street creaked open, and Ananias stepped into the dim room where the infamous prosecutor sat in silence, his eyes useless, his posture broken by the weight of revelation. Ananias approached him, not with judgment or anger, but with the grace that defines the faith, placing his hands gently on Saul's shoulders and speaking the words that would bridge the gap between enemy and brother.
The Lord
Brother
Jesus,
Saul,
who appeared to
he
you on the
said,
road,
his
has
voice
sent me
steady
so
with
that you may
divine
regain your
courage.
sight
The
and be
Lord,
filled with the Holy
Jesus,
Spirit.
who
The
appeared
God
to
of
you
our
on the
fathers
road
has
as
chosen
you were
you,
coming here,
that you
has
should know
sent
his
me
will,
so that you may
and
see
receive a
again
blessing.
and be filled with the Holy Spirit. Immediately, something like scales fell from Saul's eyes, a physical manifestation of the spiritual blindness that had clouded his heart for so long, and he blinked in the sudden rush of returning light. But it was not just his physical vision that returned in that moment. His entire perception of reality was redirected, shifting his focus from the law of the Pharisees to the grace of the Messiah he had once hated. In a single breath, Saul went from being the greatest enemy of Christ to a chosen vessel of his mercy, rising from his seat to be immersed in the waters of baptism, washing away the old man and rising as a new creation. He took food and strengthened his body, but his spirit was already running a race that would not end until his death, for he wasted no time in making his new allegiance known to the world around him.
Brothers
Only
of
days
Damascus,
later,
hear the words
Saul
of the
entered
prophet
the
Isaiah.
synagogues of
The
Damascus,
Spirit of the Lord is
not
upon
to
me,
arrest
because he has
believers,
anointed
but to
me.
stand before the
Brothers of
scrolls
Damascus,
and
hear the
preach
words
with
of
a
the prophet
fire that
Isaiah.
astonished
The Spirit
everyone
of the
who
Lord is
heard him.
upon me, because he has
Jesus is
anointed
the
me.
Son of
How
God.
dare you bring such blasphemy into this holy...
The
Brothers,
people
hear
were
me out. The
bewildered,
scriptures are clear on this
whispering
matter.
among
This is
themselves,
blasphemy.
"Wait,
Silence
isn't
him.
this
We
the
will not
same
listen
man
to
who
these lies.
caused
Did
such
you see
havoc
who
in
he arrived
Jerusalem?
with?
Didn't
The
he
Romans
come
are watching
here
the Eastern Gate.
specifically to
Claims to be
take
the
prisoners
Messiah, but I
back
fear
to
he
the
is
chief
simply a zealot.
priests?" But it was no
You cannot
misunderstanding.
seriously suggest that the
It
temple
was a
sacrifices
miracle
are
of the
optional.
highest
The Torah
order,
commands it.
as
The
Saul
prophets
grew
command
more
justice
and
mercy
more
for-
powerful in his
You cannot
preaching,
seriously suggest
baffling the
that temple
Jews
sacrifices
living
are
in
optional.
Damascus
The Torah
by
commands it.
proving
The
that
prophets command
Jesus was
justice and
indeed
mercy.
the Messiah.
Behold, the days are coming.
The hunter had
scrolls
become the
clearly
hunted,
forbid this
for after
blasphemy.
many
He
days had
challenges
gone
the
by,
temple's authority.
the religious
He
leaders
must be
conspired to
silenced.
kill him, their former champion now seen as the ultimate traitor to their cause and their traditions. They set watches at the city gates day and night, their eyes peeling the crowds for a glimpse of him, waiting for
Your
Saul
papers
to
say
attempt
you
an
are
exit
Eleazar.
so they
Why
could
are you
silence his
traveling alone
voice
at this hour?
forever with the
Please,
sword.
Centurion, I mean no harm.
But Saul learned of their plot, and under the cover of a moonless night, his new brothers in Christ took him to an opening in the city wall, far away from the guarded gates where his enemies lay in wait. They lowered him down in a large woven basket, the ropes straining under his weight as he descended into the darkness outside the walls, escaping the city he had intended to conquer, now a fugitive for the gospel. The man once feared as Saul was now beginning a journey that would lead him to be known throughout the world as Paul, a name that would appear on the headers of letters that would change history. But why the name change? Saul was his Hebrew name, a name of heritage, tradition, and royal lineage, connecting him to the tribe of Benjamin and his past life as a Pharisee of Pharisees. Paul, however, was his Roman name, a name that spoke to the wider world he was now called to reach, a name that bridged the gap between the Jewish faith and the Gentile nations across the empire.
He demands righteousness from all people.
Welcome.
As he
Welcome,
began his
travelers and
missionary
citizens
journeys,
of Corinth.
preaching to
Step
Greeks
forward and
and
hear the
Romans,
words of truth
his
in
name
this
became a
magnificent
symbol of
city.
his mission, reflecting a shift from the proud, exclusive scholar to the humble, inclusive servant of all. It marked the transition from persecutor to preacher, from Saul the Pharisee to Paul the Apostle. Though Scripture never records a dramatic moment of renaming, the shift in usage tells the story of his new focus. Years later, Paul would write to the Galatians, "You have heard of my former way of life in Judaism, how I intensely persecuted the church of God and tried to destroy it, advancing beyond many of my own age. But when
Brothers, hear this
God,
truth.
who set me
The law
apart
was
from
our
my mother's
guardian until
womb
Christ
and
came,
called me by
that
his
we might be
grace,
justified
was
by
pleased to
faith.
reveal his Son
I
to me
remember
so that I might preach him
the
among the
glory
Gentiles. I did
of
not
that
consult with
day.
any human being."
I remember.
Paul would go on to travel thousands of miles, plant churches across the Roman world, suffer shipwrecks, beatings, and imprisonment, yet he never lost the joy of the salvation he found on that dusty road. He wrote letters that would become the backbone of the New Testament, laying down his life for the very gospel he once
My time
tried
is
to
drawing
destroy,
near, but remember
proving
the
that
hope to
no
which you
one
were
is
called.
beyond the
Remain
reach of
steadfast
God's
in
redeeming love.
and walk in peace. My time is drawing.
Because when Jesus
It is my
changes a
honor
heart,
to serve
he
you
doesn't just clean it up,
as
he
the
gives it a
Lord
new mission,
commanded.
a new purpose,
If I,
and a
your
new
Lord and
identity,
teacher, have washed
turning
your
our
feet,
greatest failures
also
into the
ought to
platforms
wash
for
one
his
another's
greatest
feet.
glory.
I found an altar with this.
The story of Saul is a reminder that grace is not earned by righteousness, but is a gift given to the broken, a light that can blind us to our own pride so that we can finally see the truth.
You have an altar in
From the stoning of Stephen to the basket in Damascus, the life of Paul stands as a testament to the fact that the most hardened heart can be softened, and the fiercest enemy can become the most faithful friend.
The
His
grace of the
legacy
Lord
is
Jesus
not in the
Christ
fear
and the
he
love of God
caused,
and the
but in the
communion of
love
the
he
Holy
spread,
Spirit be
a
with you
ripple
all.
effect that
The
continues to
grace of
touch
the Lord
lives
Jesus Christ
2,000
and the love
years
of God
later,
and the
inviting
communion
us
of the
all
Holy
to
Spirit
experience
be with
our
you all.
own road to Damascus. As we reflect on this incredible journey, we are reminded that no matter how far we have walked in the wrong direction, there's always a light
Hear
ready
my
to turn us
cry,
around
O Lord.
and guide us home.
Though my body weakens, the
Thank
hour of
you
my
for
departure
watching
is
this
at hand.
story of
Remember
transformation.
what I taught
If
you,
you haven't
and
subscribed
guard the
yet,
good
please
deposit
don't forget to
entrusted
do
you.
so, as it really helps us continue providing you with amazing videos like this one. Script continues to ensure pacing. Asterisk self-correction. The user input ends here conceptually, but I need 80 lines. I will expand the ending reflection and specific details of his later life, mentioned in the summary. Asterisk. Think
From
of the
Rome
irony.
to Alexandria,
The hands that
the
once
scrolls
held the
carried
warrants for
vital
arrest
messages that held the
now
empire
wrote
together.
the words. Love is patient. Love is kind. Defining the very essence of the faith he once sought to eradicate from the earth. The voice that shouted orders to drag believers from their homes became the voice that preached on Mars Hill in Athens, declaring the unknown God to the philosophers and thinkers of the age. The feet that marched with deadly purpose toward Damascus became the feet that walked the weary roads of Asia Minor, bringing the good news of peace to cities steeped in idolatry and confusion. Paul's life teaches us that our past does not dictate our future, and that the mistakes we have made are not the final sentence on who we are or who we can become in the hands of the Creator. He showed us that true strength is found in weakness. For he famously wrote about his thorn in the flesh, realizing that God's power is made perfect when we are at the end of our own resources. In his final days, imprisoned in Rome, awaiting execution under Emperor Nero, Paul did not look back with regret, but with a triumphant assurance, writing to his young protege Timothy with bold confidence. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith, he declared, knowing that a crown of righteousness was waiting for him, not for his works, but for his love of the Lord's appearing. The light that blinded him on the road to Damascus had now become the light that illuminated his dark prison cell, giving him a hope that transcended chains, walls, and even death itself. So, as we close the chapter on Saul of Tarsus, let us carry the lesson of his life with us, that no one is too far gone, no heart is too hard, and no life is too broken for the miraculous intervention of grace. Every time we read the letters to the Romans, the Corinthians, or the Ephesians, we are hearing the echo of that voice on the road, the voice that changed a murderer into a martyr. It serves as a beacon of hope for all of us who have ever felt unworthy, reminding us that if God could use Saul, he can certainly use us to make a difference in the world around us. The transformation was complete, absolute, and irreversible. The old Saul was dead, buried in the waters of baptism, and the new Paul lived only by faith in the Son of God who loved him. This is the power of the gospel, not just to improve bad people, but to bring dead people to life, to take hearts of stone and turn them into hearts of flesh, beating with a new rhythm. Let the story of Paul encourage you today. Whatever road you are on, whatever burdens you carry, the same light that shone on him is available to shine into your life right now.
Brother Ananias.
We hope this animation has brought the story to life
He has
for
sent
you
me
in
so
a
that
new
you might
way,
regain your sight
helping you
and be filled with
visualize the
Holy
drama,
Spirit.
the emotion,
I am
and the
grateful
profound
for your
reality
understanding.
of these historical events.
Let us work together in his...
Creating these visuals takes a tremendous amount of time and effort, and we do it because we believe these stories deserve to be told with excellence and passion for a new generation. If you have been moved by this story, please share it with a friend, a family member, or anyone who might need a reminder that change is possible and that hope is never lost. Leave a comment below telling us which Bible story you would like to see us animate next, as we love hearing from our community and creating content that matters to you. Until next time, keep seeking the light, keep walking the path of faith, and remember that you are part of a story much bigger than yourself, just as Paul was. Thank you for your support, your likes, and your subscriptions. They mean the world to us and enable us to keep this channel running and growing every single week.